What's going on, everybody, and welcome to Rock Video Rental. I am Brandon, and with me, as always, is Caleb. Caleb, have you watched anything interesting lately?
Yeah. So I have been continuing on with John Wick. Finally got past the first movie, watched the second one. I started a third one, but I haven't finished it yet. So you only watched the first one so far, right?
Yeah, I added the other two to my watch list, but I haven't got around to watching them yet.
Okay. I really like them. I think they're really awesome. It's kind of interesting because I take into mind like action movies and what we grew up with and what we're exposed to now.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like The Rock and his movies are a parallel to Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and things like that. But then the Wick movies, and there are some other things out there too, but the Wick movies especially are standing out to where I feel like they're trying, they make it ridiculous, but they don't do, I'm jumping out a window of a skyscraper with no safety measures and I survive falling like 100 stories.
Right.
It's not quite that crazy. So I feel like they're trying to keep it closer to the realm of reality, but I don't know. It's just kind of funny because I feel like I'm dissecting these action movies more so than I have in the past. So it's kind of interesting. Really excited to finish the third one. I'll probably actually finish it tonight after we record, and then whenever the fourth one is going to come out.
Rock.
What about you? Anything worth sharing?
I guess one kind of related thing. I watched the 1993 biopic Dragon, the Bruce Lee story.
Oh, nice.
That's a pretty good movie. The guy who played Bruce Lee, Jason Scott Lee, does a really good job. Very believable. Looks a lot like Bruce. Really talented martial artist. Just kind of interesting all the stuff that Bruce went to not only become famous but to make a life for himself in America.
Mm-hmm.
Just really cool. And I know you're a big Bruce Lee fan, so you'd probably really enjoy it.
Nice. Rock. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Other than that, the latest movie I've seen, like the newest one, is a movie that came out late last year called Freaky.
Okay.
And it's like a horror comedy that's kind of plays loosely on like the movie Freaky Friday. It's got Vince Vaughn in it and like this girl named Catherine Newton, where he's like a serial killer and she's just like this awkward teenager, and he steals like some ancient like Mayan dagger from a collector and like stabs her with it, and that makes them like switch personalities.
Yes, I do. I saw a preview for that.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I actually didn't get to watch the end of it yet. Kind of long story, but we were going to see it in a movie theater and it was sold out. So we rented it and I had to like go home before I got to watch the end of it. But it's on some streaming stuff, so I'll be able to catch the end of it here soon.
Rock.
But yeah, from what I saw, it was pretty fun. I saw up until like the last maybe 15 minutes.
Oh man, that sucks. I was missing that end of a movie.
Yeah, but I'll get around to it. I'll probably watch it this week. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And hey, let's just dive right into the movie.
Welcome to What's Cooking Tonight.
Anybody hungry?
Television's most popular star
Who is that guy?
is not what you'd expect.
I know that guy.
He's a gentle soul.
I know you.
He's
Jackie. You're a nice guy.
Mr. Nice Guy. But if you make the mistake
I don't even know her.
of getting him mad, you'd better get out of his way. proves to the world, nice guys finish first. Mr. Nice Guy.
So the movie of the week is 1997 martial arts movie Mr. Nice Guy. It is directed by Samo Kam Bohung. I hope I said that right. The plot is a Chinese chef accidentally gets involved with a news reporter who filmed a drug bust that went awry and is now being chased by gangs who are trying to get the videotape from him. The cast is Jackie Chan as Jackie, oddly enough, Richard Norton as Giancarlo, Mickey Lee as Mickey, and Karen McLyment as Lakeisha. There's some other characters too here. I just took the first four, basically.
Rock.
If you guys have been listening for a while, you know that Caleb and I did a martial arts month last year, and we tried to watch a Jackie Chan movie, but we got suckered in by someone putting Jackie Chan's name as like a lead of a movie that he wasn't a lead in.
Yep, we got not clickbait. What was it? Like Catfish, essentially? movie Catfish.
Suckered, yeah. Ended up being an interesting movie, The Prisoner.
Yeah, that was a guess, a leap of faith, and it flopped. So it was nice to be able to go to one that we knew was going to be solid.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean it's got the typical Jackie Chan storyline of I don't want any trouble.
Leave me alone.
He's always in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm. And he's Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny seeing him as like a TV chef.
Yeah, I remember that because we were going between a couple movies to decide which Jackie Chan movie to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing this and I was like, oh yeah, this is the one where Jackie Chan basically plays himself. Or like, you know, oh, it's Jackie. So, yeah, he playing a chef was kind of interesting. I wonder, I mean, you know how disciplined he can be and how many takes he would have to do to complete some of his stunts and everything, but then doing the cooking stuff on top of that, I imagine that those were quite a few takes as well.
Oh yeah, I would imagine. I mean, I got some interesting stuff about that when we get the trivia and facts, but yeah, this movie kind of starts off with a bang. We get, basically like the first interesting thing we get is that chase scene with, the woman kind of just happening alongside Jackie, and he gets kind of pulled into this thing with like this gang, and they start fighting with him. And of course, typical Jackie Chan, he's got like all these crazy stunts, and a lot of humorous things. And the one thing that really made me laugh is when they're like chasing him around, and then like they lose track of him, and he has got like his back pushed up against like a semi truck, and his feet pushed up against the outside of a building.
Yeah.
And she's just kind of like sitting in his lap, and they don't notice him. That's just like classic Jackie Chan there, and it made me laugh.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but there was this whole movie, I mean, especially coming from what we watched before, is just like classic Jackie. I feel like I'd have to look at it closer on when his movies came out, but it seemed like mid to late 90s was, classic Jackie.
Yeah. I would probably agree with that too. And then, some of the stuff he did in the early 2000s, I would say as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I guess the highlight of these movies like are the fight scenes. Um, you know, shortly after this chase and fight, we get kind of a little exposition where the reporter's like explaining what's going on, and like Jackie takes the tape and like dumps it off with family.
Yeah, it was she accidentally got the wrong tape, so the tape was in Jackie's car with a bunch of other tapes that he was taking to uh the guy who essentially like took over being a father figure in his life,
Hmm.
and his nieces and nephews were there, so he brought a bunch of movies for them to watch or to drop off something, and the kids got into it.
Yeah, and I mean, typical foreign movie that sometimes things aren't explained out like they are in American movies.
Yeah.
I find that a lot with Italian horror more than anything else. But yeah, these um, Hong Kong martial arts movies are kind of notorious for that as well.
Hmm.
Um, we get to see Jackie on this TV show where there's like two cooks. It's him and I believe he's a French guy, and
Maybe.
it's almost like a competition thing, but like where Jackie's kind of like the comic relief, and the other
Hmm.
guy's like the more serious guy, and um, I don't know, it's just funny kind of seeing their back and forth and seeing Jackie play that professional chef, and he's doing all of the like the knife tricks and all that kind of stuff in these scenes.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, and for those of Jackie Chan, like he's notorious for pretty much giving everything his all. Like he does all of his own stunts, and even in this, he does all of his own cooking scenes, and that's just another side of his talent, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, then we get to meet his like love interest, who is Mickey, and at the same time, he's got like this friend named Lakeisha who somewhat seems kind of interested in him.
Yeah, I was really confused by that whole thing.
Yeah, and then like the woman that had the tape shows up every once in a while, and she also almost seems kind of interested in him too. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah, she's
Um,
the one who called him the nice guy. And yeah, I found that very interesting because I didn't remember that from when I watched it years ago, that essentially he had the three women interested in him. I mean, I was a I was younger,
yeah,
I was a kid, so I was just focused on the fighting scenes, but I thought that was kind of funny where they made him like the uh ladies man essentially.
yeah. Um, and that's kind of how I am with these like martial arts movies. That a lot of times I'm just paying attention to the fighting scenes.
Hmm.
And the next fighting scene was one of the best I've seen in a long time, and that's the one on the horse carriage.
Yeah.
They're making like Mickey and Jackie are making a getaway from like this gang um, on his horse carriage, and
Which totally makes sense, you know.
yeah, yeah, winter's cars all over the place. Um, it just some funny stuff where Mickey keeps like getting knocked forward on the cart to the point where she ends up like on the horses pulling it, and Jackie's doing all these stunts and everything. And a couple of my favorite ones is when the guy's like hanging onto his arm, and Jackie's kind of running alongside the horse carriage.
Hmm.
And then the part where he's like standing on a carriage, but he leans forward and he puts his hands on a bus,
Yeah,
and he just kind of like shuffles alongside it. It's just like that look of panic that Jackie always gets
that was
in his
impressive.
movies like that. It just always cracks me up. Yeah, one of the best fight scenes I've seen in a long time.
Hmm. Well, that was something too, and I'm going to interject this here because it might be the last point. We were between this movie and his movie Who Am I, which came out around the same time period. And Who Am I? Have you seen that one?
I have not.
Okay, that one has one of his best fight scenes, I think. And so I was really torn between the two because I was like, I know this one has a really, really good fight scene. But then I
Mhm.
also remember this one feeling like it was one of his, even though they came out around the same time within a couple of years of each other, I felt like this one was kind of like the earlier, more comedic kind of Jackie. So I wanted to go with this one. But yeah, it was, he definitely had some really good action in this movie.
Mhm. Yeah, I fully agree. Um, and it's right around this time where we kind of meet like the main villain, and that's Giancarlo. You always see him a little bit at the beginning, but we get to like learn more about him and how he's just kind of like the head of this gang.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't, did they never really said what his gang was. They talked about the other gang, the demons. So
yeah, that it's just kind of like he's just the bad guy.
yeah. Well, I thought it was funny, because I don't know if we'll get back to this or not, but the whole emphasis on the videotape thing was because the reporter caught him, Giancarlo, with the demon gang, and I don't even know if they said his name, but the leader of the demon gang.
Hmm.
What did you think of that guy?
Yeah, he was interesting.
Yeah, he was I do have to say, like, for the two main bad guys, they did pretty good. Like, Giancarlo did a pretty good job. I mean, for what this movie was, I mean, this isn't like a blockbuster and everything. But they did pretty good. But yeah, that demon guy was definitely pushing that limit of, overemphasizing everything a little bit too much.
Hmm.
So
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, and I mean, really, the rest of the movie is like uh, Jackie and Mickey both get captured, and they try to basically kill Jackie off. And that's we get another really cool scene of him in that construction site.
hmm
So yeah, the construction site scene is really cool because um they have like this huge dump truck that they're trying to run over this car that Jackie's in, and it crushes it up some and kind of rolls it over a few times to the point it's like, how is he going to get out of this thing? And in typical crazy Jackie Chan fashion, he like finds a way to like wiggle out of it. Uh,
yeah.
and like this dump truck is enormous. Like the tires are bigger than Jackie is, and this guy's like trying to run over him. And
hmm
just his crazy stunts, diving under the truck, jumping up on the tires to get up into the truck and fight the guy. Just yeah, some really really cool stunts and scenes in that.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the. I think it was the craziest stunt. I mean, so many stunts in this movie with Jackie, from, of course, all his crazy climbing and fighting, but then there was a scene in a construction site where he was on the table with a bandsaw, and the carriage ride stuff, as we talked about, jumping from a bridge. But this with the huge dump truck, I think, was the most impressive stunt to me. And I'm not sure. I was trying to tell, like you said, he always does his own stunts, but of course, like, I mean, he might get some help with some things. Not like CGI or anything like that, but just like, safety measures and whatnot.
Yeah.
When he was in front of the tire, and it was driving towards him, and he was essentially pushing himself off of the tire. I thought that was one of the most impressive stunts, because I was just like, dude, one mess up, and that's like, I don't know. I don't know how they had. I don't know if they had like a rope on his back that you couldn't see, that they kind of were pulling him, maybe. But I was
That's
just like,
possible. Yeah, I wondered that too. Like, wow, they really like chanced it in this. Like,
yeah,
I don't
because
think the rules are the same in like America.
yeah, because I that was the thing where it's just like, if he messed up, there was no, like, there's
margin
not
for
enough.
error.
Yeah, there's no margin for error. There's not enough time to stop that truck before it would roll onto at least a foot, if not his leg.
Right.
So yeah, that if you haven't seen the movie, you've got to. You could find that scene online, I'm sure, and it's just like I have to imagine that they had some kind of something set up, because that's just one of those crazy stunts, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Um, yeah, I would assume that they would have something that, if we need to hurry up and get him out of here quickly, this is what we have to do. Whether it's a harness or somebody like signaling to the guy in the truck or something.
Yeah, maybe a
Who
kill
knows?
switch on the truck or something. Yeah.
Yes, something I would think. I mean, because if you think about it, is at this time, and he still might be, that Jackie Chan is like probably the biggest star in Hong Kong.
Yeah, because this was so he was the biggest star in Hong Kong, and then he started getting known outside of Hong Kong. Because
Yeah,
actually, like Rush Hour came out just a couple years after this, so he was big enough that people knew him around the world at this point. So
yeah, hmm yeah. So you would think they'd have probably some kind of safety measure in there for that, but yeah. And I mean, other than that, I guess the movie kind of starts wrapping up.
yeah, pretty quickly.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. What did you think of the end?
I that was one of the parts that always stood out to me. Like I remember thinking, hey, what's that Jackie Chan movie where he drives a huge dump truck? Like that's how I defined this movie.
Yeah.
Was, oh, it's the movie with that scene. And it was a funny ending, because essentially like he takes the dump truck and he just drives it through Giancarlo's huge house.
hmm
And I always find it interesting watching that part, because that house was just built to be destroyed. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's just such bare bones. Like you can see when it's falling apart that it's just like prop wood and stuff like that. So I always get a chuckle out of that. But yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
funny because he just does that and then it's like end of story.
Yeah. It just kind of quick ending. I guess before the whole dump truck scene, he gets like forced to fight Giancarlo, and where it's like tied down or held
Yeah.
back, and that's kind of interesting too. I've never seen anything like that. But yeah, just the house blows up, and it's like, okay, well that's like the end. It kind of cracked me up.
Yeah, the cops are right there on hand to arrest Giancarlo, and they're like, "Okay, that's enough of an ending. We're good."
Yeah,
But
pretty
then,
much.
the real ending comes, and like one of the best parts of Jackie Chan movies, where during the credits they show you all the bloopers and stunt tests and everything like that.
Yeah.
Those are always great.
Yeah, that's kind of typical for Jackie Chan movies, it seems. Um, one of my favorite bloopers is when he does the one with the table saw, like the blade coming towards his crotch, and he just like stops really quick, and he like looks at the blade, he's like, oh.
Yeah. Oh man, some of those I just um, can't imagine. Like I said, I still think that dump trunk was the craziest one, but that saw was definitely up there too. So that one probably I feel like would be a little bit easier to have a kill switch or something like that. But
Oh yeah, for sure.
mm.
Um, yeah, I guess. Man, what's your favorite scene in the movie?
Oh man, favorite scenes. Well, I told you the scene that always stuck out to me the most, and that was definitely the dump truck part. Favorite scene. Well, real quick to give a little context, it's a little bit funny because I didn't really plan it this way. So I watched the movie all the way through once, and then I kind of played it again a second time, but I was doing some work on my computer, so I didn't catch the whole movie. But then I played it a third time. That time I really didn't pay attention, but I did want to check something on how much time was actually Jackie Chan like fighting or doing action scenes. So I timed it, and this movie's like an hour 40 minutes, and only a little over 40 minutes is actually action. So I was a little bit,
Really?
yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that, because I was just like, man, it's such an action-packed movie. And then I timed it, and I was like, it's not, well, okay. And to clarify, it's Jackie Chan action. Like, there's some scenes where there's some quote unquote action, but Jackie's not in it. I just timed the parts where it was what I labeled kind of like Jackie Chan action scene. And so, yeah, only like about 45 minutes out of an hour and 40 movie was Jackie Chan action.
Wow. Yeah, I guess I didn't really, I guess not until we started talking about it for the show that, there wasn't like a crazy amount of fight scenes, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite parts was the first fight scene, just because it had some really funny elements in it, where like he got the gun,
Yeah.
and he and the reporter was with him. They both thought it was empty, and there was one bullet left, and he shot it in the air by accident. And also, they came up against one of the mobster gangster guys, and Jackie pointed his gun at him, and then he raised his hand. The bad guy raised his hands. Then he turned to give him the gun because it
Hmm.
was empty, and like just played that little trick on him. So I felt like that was one of the more comedic fight scenes in the movie. So I
Oh
enjoyed
yeah,
that
I
one.
agree. Yeah, I agree. Um,
What,
yeah, I would
what,
say my favorite scene is probably the one on the horse carriage, when he's like shuffling along on that bus.
yeah.
That was just that made me laugh, and I'm like, yeah, that's got a typical craziness for Jackie Chan.
Hmm.
Like all of his unique and crazy stunts that he always pulls in his movies.
Yeah. Well, I got to mention too, a scene I did enjoy. It wasn't one of my favorites, but I always enjoy. You said his name. You probably are going to say it better than I do, but the director Samo,
Yeah. Hmm.
he, I don't know if I can say always does, but he usually makes a cameo in the movie if not having a bigger role. So, and he was the guy on the bicycle. If you guys are familiar with the movie, he was the guy on the bicycle.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, really funny scene there too. Cracked
mhm.
me up. But you want to get into the trivia?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I don't really have too much for this one. They didn't really have too much interesting. I did see the one about the director on the bike, but I figured we were probably going to talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Uh, so, because of the mess that they left behind from the demolished house that we spoke about at the end, the production company was banned permanently for ever filming in that part of Australia again.
Wow. Really? That is so like they just didn't clean it up?
I guess, or like just from the crazy like explosion and stuff. I don't know. Like I just found that kind of interesting.
I did think that when I watched it, one of the second times that I thought I noticed, because at first when I saw it, I felt like, okay, they built this set way out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
But then when I was watching the explosions when they were happening, I was just like, those look like buildings not too far in the background. So maybe they were a little bit closer to things than they should have been for having so many explosions.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe they like broke some kind of like zoning laws or something. I don't know.
It was quite the intense finish for sure.
Oh yeah. So we spoke about a lot with Jackie Chan and his cooking scenes.
Hmm.
So he actually learned how to professionally cook for this movie.
That's surprising. I mean, not to take it away from him, but I felt like the cooking element honestly wasn't that much.
Yeah.
Like, they emphasized that at the beginning, and he did the whole noodle thing right away. But outside of that, he didn't do a ton that I would think that he would need to learn how to professionally cook for it.
Yeah, and it was just like, the noodles and then like the knife work was really
Yeah.
the only like super impressive stuff. Um, yeah, and then the scene where he's like throwing food into people's mouths, that was kind of funny
Yeah.
and a little impressive too.
Yeah, I wondered how many times it took to throw the food to the guy on the balcony.
Right. Yeah, because that was all in one shot. There was no cutaway for that one.
Oh no, there was a cutaway.
Oh, was there?
Yeah, yeah. They cut away right before, and I was like, yeah, they probably had to do it a couple times.
Probably. So I spoke about Bruce Lee earlier. So part of the sequence at the construction site is a parody of the mirror sequence in Enter the Dragon. So with the multiple blue doors opening and closing,
Yeah.
was to replicate the mirrors.
Nice.
Yeah, that was super subtle. Like I wouldn't have thought about it unless I found this fact.
Yeah. I would not really have connected the dots. There's a mirror scene in John Wick 2. And I feel like that would be maybe directly related to that Bruce Lee movie. But
Yeah, most
anyways.
likely. So the last one I got is this movie made 12.7 million in the US box office. I don't know what the budget was. I couldn't find that information anywhere.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's probably fairly like less than that.
Did you have what it made worldwide?
No, I don't.
I was just curious with it being a
Oh, worldwide gross is 18.8.
okay. I was kind of wondering if it would be substantially larger since he had such big following in Asia. But
Yeah, I think the US is always the big money getter though.
yeah.
So, yeah, do you want to get into grades? Kind of like a wrap up in grades.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So I'll let you guess here. I pulled from the two normal sources that we usually get these from, IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. And just for fun, let's start with Rotten Tomatoes this time.
All right, Rotten Tomatoes. Now these I can only imagine are not going to be good because I feel like action movies in general and then martial arts movies don't get highly rated. So for Rotten Tomatoes, for the critics score, let's go with like 40.
You're pretty close. It's 43.
Okay. And then the fan, not the fan, what's it called?
Audience?
Audience. Gosh, I never get that right. Audience, man, I don't know if it'd be a little bit higher. 43, let's go 48.
44.
Oh, wow.
So
those
neck and neck.
Yeah.
I will say that IMDb is a little more favorable. What do you think that one is?
I'm gonna guess like a 6.2.
That is exactly what it is.
Really? All
Yeah.
right. Ding, ding, ding. There we go. That doesn't happen very often.
I was actually kind of surprised to see the Rotten Tomatoes being so low. I'm like, yeah, it's a kung fu movie, but at the same time, like, it was entertaining.
Yeah. They may have kind of graded it a little bit harsher on the script and the acting. I mean, it wasn't it was a little lackluster in some areas if you focus on them outside of the action and Jackie's part in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I guess we can do like our wrap up and our grades. I'll let you go first since I know this was your pick.
yeah. Well, yeah, that kind of feeds right into it then, because I mean, if you like action, it's an action movie. If you like martial arts, it's a martial arts movie. If you like comedy, it's got enough comedy in there to keep you entertained. Actually, honestly, I just realized right now before this moment, I've not thought out what my grade is going to be officially. But just kind of like breaking it down, Jackie did a fantastic job. And it's actually kind of funny because in the bloopers, he mentions that he still struggles with speaking English.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is early enough in his career that I can't even speak. Speaking English is not a strong suit for him yet. But he did a really good job in this movie. Of course, I mean, I'm sure some of them took a lot of takes just with the dialogue, but he did a great job. The action and the choreography of the fighting was really great. I mean, he and his team always do such a great job with the stunts. I don't know if you could ever look at Jackie Chan movie and think they didn't do a good job with the stunts.
Right.
But as far as the acting and the scripts and the storyline, I mean, it's never that great in an action. It's usually never that great in an action movie, and this is definitely a couple steps down from that.
Yeah.
That you had, as I mentioned, some of those actors who were doing the over the top acting, as we like to refer it to.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you're trying to figure out who's who and what's happening, especially early on in the movie, because they don't really do enough to lay the foundation of the story. They kind of throw a lot at the beginning, and then you kind of have to pick up the pieces throughout the movie. But overall, I mean, the story wasn't too bad, and so I thoroughly enjoy it for what it is. I'm probably gonna give it a this is kind of tough. I feel like there are some, because I'm thinking of this now in kind of the scope of his movies, and in the martial arts realm. I'm probably gonna go 3.5.
Okay.
I was between 3.5 and 4, but I don't think enough of it was good enough to give it a 4. So I'm sticking with 3.5.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I gave it a 3.5 as well. Um, you mentioned the lack of like action in it at
Mm-hmm.
times. I think if it had a little bit more, maybe like one more like fun fighting scene, that it would bump it up to that 4 for me. At the same time, I was entertained, and yeah, just like the stunts and stuff, I always appreciate, and I know like the crazy work and stuff that Jackie puts in for that kind of stuff. Um, just yeah, it's something. I don't know if you like martial arts movies, if you like Jackie Chan like we do, then you'll probably enjoy it. I wouldn't say it's one of his best movies, but
Mm-hmm.
it was entertaining, like I said, and it's a movie too that you can watch it. You don't have to pay like super close attention to. Um, like how you mentioned, you watched it like 3 times this week to
Yeah.
prepare.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, it's good to like have on in the background, and you can catch the the fighting scenes and some of the cooking stuff and some of the comedy in it, and still enjoy it, even though if you don't fully know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's face it, in a kung fu movie, like, does the plot really matter all that much?
No, usually it's somebody about revenge, and revenge was part of this. So
Yeah, always. Anyway, we talked about that with Van Damme movies, how it's always like like getting revenge, like for a brother or a wife or something like that.
yeah. And yeah, I mean, like, it's one of those things where, I mean, if you like martial arts, if you like action movies, you're going to enjoy it probably to a certain degree. Now, if you're looking for an action movie with like a lot of shooting and everything like that, that's the wrong kind of action. But yeah, I mean, it's an entertaining movie for, I think, most anyone out there.
Yeah, I would agree. And it was a fun way to kick off martial arts.
Yes.
So, anything else you want to mention?
I don't think so. Well, I talked a little bit about it before. I actually wanted to watch the other Jackie Chan movie too that we were talking about, the Who Am I?
Yeah.
But I knew I needed to wait because so many Jackie Chan movies blend together for me that I didn't want to accidentally start talking about the wrong Jackie Chan movie during our review.
Yeah, I could see that. I thought about watching that as well and had kind of the same thoughts. Because I know they could be like that sometimes.
Yeah, so I'll probably watch that here in the next couple weeks.
Yeah. So next week we will be back with another part of our martial arts month, and we will be talking about an episode of Walker Texas Ranger, specifically season 8, episode 9. Yeah, kind of. I was going through like, okay, which Walker episode should we watch? Because it's like, well, we're gonna do some, TV shows. What's a martial arts TV show? First thing that popped in my head was Walker Texas Ranger.
Of course.
And when I was going through, I saw like a picture of this one. The name of the episode is Fight or Die, which is just the perfect name for an episode. The plot is, Walker goes undercover in an Arkansas prison to expose a warden making money for fights. So, kind of interesting. And the reason I picked it is because the picture has a picture of Macho Man Randy Savage on it. And I'm like, I feel like that's one we have to watch. So, we'll be talking about that. Only our second time doing a TV episode.
Yeah.
First one was the Dinner Party Office.
Yeah, and that was a pretty good one. So I'll be interested to see how this one goes.
Yeah, so you guys can prepare for next week. Check it out. I believe it's streaming on Pluto TV, which is free, so pretty much anybody can watch it. Until then, as always, be kind, rewind.
一種不可改變，決心向上人。活路上進展，理智與勇敢的不凡人。強人遇挫折，令勇氣加增。漩渦中，使我更有所感，維繫正直路途一生作己任。